All right, so we're going to get started on our next session of our Einstein and VIP aha moments. This is a series of aha moments that I had as I was kind of turning my trading around from being a miserably losing trader to actually being able to generate a regular income. I'm not going to be teaching you how to trade our trading system here. This is that we have many other venues and media for that type of training. This is more about what it's to kind of retool your thinking on trading and how to approach trading in a way that's actually more similar to how we approach our lives, that we ever become successful at. So for some reason, we all have this mistake about trading that we think that it's something other than what it is, and that's what actually gets us into trading, is that we believe that once we figure it out, we can just sit down, make a bunch of money, and then that's the end of that. We've got it mastered, and we do find out eventually it's not quite that way, and so we need to try to maybe rethink this whole trading thing. So that's what this whole series is about, and I've identified some things that are worth talking about that might help you kind of rethink, reframe this trading thing. One of the things I want to talk about today is the fact that, counting seems to be very prevalent in your trading. And it seems logical that that is a good way to track how you're doing. You want to really have some sort of a metric to tell you whether you're being successful or not. I'm going to discuss with you how counting can potentially be, and probably is, a diversion of your attention from doing what you should be doing your job as a trader. Speaking of which, we are going to, in the next few weeks, be coming up to a series that I've done that is called Trading as a Business. Part of that series, you're not going to turn trading is going to no longer be something you're trying to learn to do. It's going to be something that you're going to do as your job. Okay, and that's how you're going to approach trading. Okay. So when I say as your job, I mean doing something very specific. So if you think about your job now, or the jobs that you've had in the past, maybe that's like writing a report. A part of your job is maybe to write a report about something, or to build a house, or to land an airplane. You aren't really thinking at the time that you're writing that report, or driving nails, or putting the landing gear down, how much you're going to make for doing that particular activity. Okay? What you want to do is you want to do all of those activities very well, to the best of your ability, based on the training that you've had to do those things, based on your experience, based on your job description. So that if you do that, then you know that you are ultimately going to earn a paycheck for doing that, along with the other things that are part of your job description. More importantly, you're going to get the right to keep that job and do it again and again and again. So counting every time you do something in your business, or in your profession, or in your whatever job you have, you're not counting all day long how much money you're going to make for doing that thing. By not counting, you are beginning to free yourself up from the emotions and frustrations that counting can cause. Okay? It seems very natural for us to count. It gives us a metric for knowing how we're doing. Gives us a thrill. It makes things exciting. All right, it's what got us. It's probably the first thing we started doing when we came into trading is counting. And why is that? Because we look at trading charts, we look at trading domes, and what do we see? Nothing but numbers. Numbers everywhere. Everything's about numbers and algorithms. It's very numerically driven to the point of it trying to turn trading into a very scientific endeavor, which means that when we have science, we have, when I say science, I mean like using lots of facts, okay? We think that if I could just use science, I could follow this linear process, right? And so we want trading to be a science, right? So that's my question for you here. Is trading more a science? And when I say science, I'm absolutes. Tested and proven to be fact, okay? Or is trading more of an art? So that's a question that you to answer, and go ahead and answer here in the chat. I don't want you to answer based on where you think I'm going with this. I want you to think for a minute, and I want you to see how you are approaching trading. What do you think that the answer is for this? How are you using your data that you are getting from the charts or the trading domes or your level 2 or your time and sales, or however you're acquiring data? How are you using that data to become a better or even a successful trader? Are you using it in a scientific way, or are you using it in the way that it was originally intended to be used? Okay, so what do you think? Is it more art based on the way you're, or is it more science? Some of both. Not when I'm watching a bar near sports, but yes, I track my win-loss ratio. I would think it would be kind of both. When I'm watching a trade, I think it's more art. Okay, so I know what you guys are thinking, but how are you, or in the past, many of you here have been VIPs for a long time with us. We're now in our 10th year, so we have a lot of VIPs, which are now called Einstein. So many of you have been here and doing this for a long time. So you've had the opportunity to kind of reframe how you're approaching trading. But I really want those of you that are watching on video to really think about, how are you approaching trading? What are you using to make decisions? So I want you to think about the reason that there's so much data in trading. The reason there's so much data in trading is because it helps us to use data to understand people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions about price at whatever level price is in on a chart, or in an instrument, or a stock, or whatever you're trading. Now, most of us really want it to be a science. We believe it's a science. We come into trading believing it's a science because it's quantifiable data, right? It's driven by data. That's what makes it move. Is data, right? We even call it data feeds. So that's what makes the market move. Data is what we're using to make our decisions on a regular basis. So who has an edge reading what a group of people are likely to do at any given time? Science, or in our case, we could replace the word science with the trading algorithms. Uses this data from past events to predict the likelihood of what's going to happen in the future. X plus Y equals Z. Art, in our case, with trading, we can replace the word art with personal experience. Uses more than just data directly related to the markets to make decisions. So if trading was all science, which many of us want to believe, and no or very little art is required, then trading might have been what you thought it'd be when you started, right? A lot easier, right? But if you think about it, if it were all science or mostly data driven, right? Then we'd all be traders, wouldn't we? And we'd all be very successful. Again, with science or math, we have absolutes. How many absolutes are there in trading? Now, I know when we all started trading, we believed that the absolutes are out there. We just have to find them. And I know there's lots of companies out there that are willing to sell those absolutes to you. But in your experience, how many absolutes have you run across in trading? Not many, right? Like none. I personally can't think of anything in trading where I know exactly what's going to happen next at any time ever. Well, if the math had a tremendous amount of value, it would be right almost all the time, right? So what happens? What's the problem? Why isn't it? If we all believe that counting, that using math is all about science and is going to make it, that much easier for us to do, why aren't we all just wildly successful? So it makes sense that we think a way to track how we're doing, because we still believe that trading is all about science, right? Go look at your trade logs. Those of you that keep trade logs, it's going to be all numbers, isn't it? It's going to be everything in your trade log is going to be numbers, and you might have some little notes that you keep. And you're going to be using that trade log, that data, to help you design a trade plan or trading rules, right? So even though you may think there's a lot of, you may think as I'm sitting here talking that, yeah, there's some art involved. How are you approaching trading? Well, so if you go ahead and cave in and say, okay, Tony, just for the sake of argument, let's say trading is more art than science, or experience than algorithms. How are we going to quantify our successes if I'm not counting Okay? So I think we can all agree, at least those of us that have been involved with trading more than just a few days or weeks, that trading is part science, but in much larger part than you're possibly willing to admit is an art. And when I say that, art, this means that you're using experience in reading how people think and react under certain circumstances. If you can reframe the science into a science of understanding how people think and react, you're going to get on the right track. Now, we don't have the ability to see these people face to face, do we? We don't have the ability to talk to these people. We don't have the ability to view them as a group of people, to be able to read all of their thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and combinations of thoughts, feelings, and emotions for a larger group of people that are trading. Like body language. You could sit and watch people at a mall. Maybe you just sit and you're like to people watch, and you can kind of figure out from a distance, a couple having a conversation, you can kind of figure out what's going on in that conversation based on a lot of things, their facial expressions, their body language. How and why do we do these things? Because our experiences in life observing people. But how do you quantify that? Okay? How are we going to quantify art and success as art? Many artists, okay, so we're going to quantify success in trading numerically, right? With numbers, by counting. That's how it seems very logical to it. But trading as an art more than a science, well, now what do we do? All right, so think about this. How do we quantify art? A lot of artists, good art, successful art. How are you going to say this is successful? This piece of artwork that I did is successful. Now, you might say, well, if they could sell it, that's success. But I would say most artists don't really have any plans to sell art. Some do. They're living at art. But in my experience, most artists don't, they have other jobs. They make their living in other ways. And they just do art to the best of their ability for some reason. So let's remove selling as a sign of success. How else would someone quantify success in art? Numerically? I mean, what are they going to use as a reference for success? Certainly there are people who feel very successful as an artist and has nothing to do with money. So how did they end up with something that they're happy with maybe? Maybe that's success. How did they feel during the time they were creating it? Maybe that's a success. Maybe somebody does art as a stress reliever, and when they're finished with it, they feel better. Maybe it's something about, whether does this art please somebody else? I made this art for for myself. It's only successful if somebody else likes it too. Maybe they find success in this art as seeing growth in their skills, or achieving an initial goal. They set out to create something that looks like something, and to them, they did it. Yeah, to do the work is a success. Now, there are some artists who make their living at art. They are instructed to create art so that they can generate an income. They have totally different motivations. Okay? So there are lots of benchmarks for quantifying success in art that have nothing to do with money. So again, is trading more science or more art? And are we using science? And again, I'm using science as, math, numbers, things that are absolute. Are we using that to quantify success in art? So if you're not counting to measure how well you're doing in trading, what do? Your progress. How are you going to measure your progress? See that you're doing better. I know that there's a whole bunch of stuff out there about keeping a trade log to quantify your success. But let's look at maybe a few other options. How about if you sat down and you watched the markets and you want to make sure that you identified every good trading opportunity that presented itself and you didn't miss a single one, and that your goal is to identify every opportunity, and you went and reviewed that, could you say you had a successful day? What about the opposite? What about you identified dangerous trading opportunities, you stayed out of them? And how many did you do? Could you quantify success that way? How many of those opportunities did you actually manage according to your trade plan? How many did you identify? How well did you manage them? Did you lose focus? I mean, if you stayed 100% engaged, just had a conversation with somebody recently who tends to lose focus because of boredom, or relatively new to trading and not used to just sitting and staring at charts. So it's that you stayed focused for the entire session. Could you quantify that as success? Okay. So for those of you that have been here for a while, those of you that have been VIPs or Einsteins for a while now, you've maybe heard me talk about this on more than one occasion. You gotta honestly ask yourself, how much of your trading revolves around counting to quantify how you're doing? I hear a lot of people talk about numbers and the percentage of winners and losers and things like that. Okay? I don't hear, well, no, that's not true. I also hear a lot of people talking about practice and working at your training and gaining experience and understanding what the numbers are measuring so that you can have a better idea on what people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions are. Okay, so here's the thing, and here's why we use numbers and counting and algorithms for trying to figure out markets. Okay, so we do the same thing when we're trying to figure out the universe, right? And how the universe works and what's going on out there in the universe, and we have an principal understanding of what's going on out there. We can't go out there, so we have to use math and algorithms and physics and all these other sciences to help us generalize what we think is going on out. Okay? Because there are too many variables to just try to figure it out by observation. Okay, so now let's take that idea and let's also apply that to a large group of people that are potentially trading at one period of time. Each one of these people have their own thoughts, feelings, and emotions, whether it's related to the market or not. Everybody's dealing with their own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Now take all of those people and let's combine all of those thoughts, feelings, and emotions. How many combinations of those thoughts, feelings, could there possibly be at any one given time? More than we could possibly figure out, but simply by observation. So we want to use numbers to try to figure it out and to kind of get close. But we're never going to nail it perfectly. We're never going to have an absolute because it is too big. There are too many changing variables, and any variable can change at any moment to cause the entire thing to blow up. And again, if you don't believe that, I got an auto trader I'm going to tell you that'll work every single time, and it's only going to cost you $100 grand. And I'll sell it to you if you believe that there are absolutes, that trading is all about counting, it's all about science, then or even mostly about science, then you're perfect candidate for these people that want to sell you these auto. Okay? So another example that might hit home for more of you. Let's talk about metrics and measuring and how the metrics we think make the most sense to us may be the absolute worst metrics to use for measuring progress. Okay? How many of you have ever been on a diet to try to lose weight? Probably most of us at some point in our lives. Seems like the older we get, the more we feel like we have to diet. So we go on a diet because maybe we're overweight. What are we going to, and maybe we also start doing some exercise to lose weight. What are we using as a metric to see how we're? Is it really weight that you're trying to lose? Really? I mean, honestly, as we all talk about, say we want to lose weight, so we join up a gym and we start better. And we want to lose weight, so we stand on a scale, right? And that's our metric. That's the one and only metric that we use. And we judge ourselves based on weight. But there are other metrics that I'm going to tell you are better than weight for seeing how you're doing. See, the problem with weight is when you start working out and you start a certain diet, you can actually gain weight, right? Gaining weight when you start working out. When you first start, you're going to start retaining more water. Yeah, eventually it turns out you start building muscle. But when you first start working out, you're going to start retaining more water. Your body's natural reaction to doing something that it's not used to. So what happens when you start all these exercises and start eating a different diet? You don't see any immediate success, so you quit or quit soon. Because, well, hell, I worked a week last week and I only ate pasta the whole time and I didn't eat any other fats or any other sugars or anything. How come I gained weight? Well, this doesn't work. Okay? Wrong metric. Wrong metric. You keep at it, you're still gaining weight. Oh my God, I'm still gaining weight. Well, now you're actually building muscle and losing fat at the same rate. You stand on the scale, you go, oh my God, I'm gaining weight, or I haven't lost any weight. This just isn't working for me. Wrong metric. There are other ways to see how you're doing that are more realistic, that are going to give you more information and give you a better view on how you're doing, a better understanding on how you're doing. And you hit it on the head. How your clothes fit is a better metric than standing on a scale. Right? So we all think the scale is the right thing to do, just like we all think that counting money is the thing to do in trading. But I'm here to tell you, when I gave up counting, when I gave up the idea that money is what's driving me to make decisions, that it's a numerical endeavor rather than an experience, rather than it being, I mean, honestly, when I watch charts, I'm people watching. I'm sitting at the mall watching people react with each other, watching people talking to each other. I'm watching emotions. That's what a chart is telling me. Now that I'm looking at a trading chart and it's no longer science, but the art of reading and understanding these movements and how the the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of this large group of people is causing these movements, I have a much better understanding of what's likely to happen next. Okay? So I want you to think about this for a while now. Science versus art. Okay? Some of both. But where is it more heavily? I'm gonna tell you that the more experience you get, artistic trading becomes, the better you're going to be. The more successful you're going to be. If you're determined to keep it more science than art, I'm going to suggest to you, based on my 17 years of experience here, you're going to continue to struggle. I don't count a win-loss ratio. Here's the thing. I count wins and losses for one reason only: to tell me when it's time to stop trading for the day. Okay? I have no other reason other than that's the end of my trading day. If I have net 3 wins, I stop trading. If I have net 3 losses, I stop trading. That's what I'm counting. Send that to me, Mike. I can't about that here. I want to stay focused on this. But I'll be happy to answer that if you want to send that to me in a support chat. Okay? With a picture of exactly what you're talking about. All right, any questions on this? Do we have a clear understanding? Do we have any arguments? We have any confusions? Am I full of crap? Nobody got anything? All right. Well, I hope this helped you out. Maybe again, the whole point of this is to help you reframe how you're approaching trading. If you believe it's all science and all math driven and all data driven, and you just want to continue to believe that, that's fine with me. This is simply my opinion to help you maybe broaden your understanding of what's really going on in the markets, to help a different perspective view of the markets. Okay? All right, everybody have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you all soon.